Welcome to episode 2 of Talking Shit. So I'm Alice.
I'm Wits.
Sadvika, but you can call me Sats. Everybody calls me Sats.
So I was thinking, today we're gonna have a short kind of chilled session, I guess. Just chilled in the sense of because I've been watching way too many controversial topics. I don't think if we have the mental capacity, maybe we can discuss it, but we could just go with the flow for now. I think for today's topic, um, I did think about this a little bit, but I was gonna ask what was your childhood like? What are the kind of like expectations, or what are the stuff? And try not to bring up childhood traumas. Try not to bring up any childhood traumas. But the reason why I'm asking this question is basically like what were society's expectations on you as a person when you were growing up, and how did that shape you to who you are today? So that's
Cool.
today's topic.
Nice. I
You want
guess
to
for
take it
those who
first?
are listening or watching, Alice just put Sats and I on a call, and then she's like, "Okay, today you're doing this," and we're like, like, okay, cool. I think that,
Hey, I don't want you guys to have planned answers. I want them to be
yeah,
genuine.
I'm just letting people know that like we don't even know, not even a minute before. It's just straight up live. Okay, anyway, all right. No try. Okay, so like I have a caveat. I don't know if you guys have ever done this as a kid, but like I salted a snail when I was a kid. It was very traumatic.
Oh,
She
really?
It
just
was
said
very,
no
very
childhood
traumatic.
traumas.
I know, but like, yeah, I like everybody said not to do it. And then I read like, The Far Side by Gary Larson. And then there were jokes about like snails in Salt Lake City. There was just lots of jokes about salt and snails, and I was so curious. And I was just like, "What is the deal with salt and snails?" Like, and then I asked my cousin about it, and he was like, he was kind of just like, "If you know, you know." And I was like, I don't know." And then eventually, I took a snail and I went into the bathroom and hid in a corner, and then I put salt on it to see what would happen, and it was horrifying. It was traumatic. It was very traumatic. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I led strong because at least it's not like human trauma.
I feel
Still
like that
pretty
had
bad
nothing to do
killing
with the
animals.
question that she asked. You just wanted to get that off your chest. Like, okay, I am moving forward. I've
She
shared
mentioned
this
childhood
story with
trauma, and I was
the
like, okay,
world, and
skip the
now I've
obvious
forgiven
stuff. And I was like,
myself.
Oh, I said we didn't have to bring up childhood trauma, but I guess Whitney was like, just bring it all up. It's fine. But no, not judging you, and I wouldn't say that as a kid doing that's a bad thing. Like I would do the exact same, just that in this in this scenario, I was not the administrator of the salt giving, but I
oh
witnessed
no,
the snail. um,
the
but
salting.
but
Yeah.
as a kid, that's curiosity. Like people don't want to tell you what it is, and you're just gonna have to find out at some point. So I think
I feel like
that was
people could have been like, it kills the snail. If they had told me at least like something like that, I'd be like, oh, why would I ever do that?
yeah,
But we
okay.
also, I guess, like nowadays we come from an age of trying to like protect animals and stuff like that. But I still hear my grandmother talking about like smashing snails and just like you know. I mean, I guess people that have gardens, they get all
Yeah.
protective and stuff, but like the snail deaths, man, they're racking up over the years.
If it makes you feel any better, they lay thousands and thousands of eggs, and they live on. So yeah, there's still thousands of them out there. You didn't kill the last snail for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's slightly comforting, I guess. Okay, anyway, let's move on from snails. I could talk about this for a while, so I'm like, don't go there with me. It's a rabbit hole. Nobody needs a snail rabbit hole right now. I already started it. It's back out.
Yeah, so let's go back to our question. Like,
Well, I'd like
as
to
it-
ask about one more thing about the snail before we go on. Um, I'm so curious to know why you brought that up in the first place. Like, have you brought it up before, and what was the question or the topic when you brought it up before, or have you never
I
talked
think
about it before?
I think I've mentioned to some people that it, like because people can relate. Every now and again, it'll come up where like I'm like, oh yeah, it's horrifying being a kid because your cousin will tell you, oh, you should eat ants. Like they're like sweets, and then you eat ants, and you're like, no, it's horrible. That's another
Wow.
thing. I mean, my cousins were terrible. I thought about it because she said no childhood trauma, and then immediately I was like, ha, childhood trauma, but not the kind that's as. I think she was talking more about like very specific stuff that like like we all have childhood trauma. We all know what she's talking about. The snail was more like an everyone trauma, so I thought I'd just lead with that, get the hearts, get the emotions up.
Okay. All right. All right. Cool. 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 Um. Right.
yeah.
You can. You can.
So
You can. I'm putting the snail
Why didn't
to
you?
rest.
Why don't you start with Alice's actual question?
Yeah. So you basically asking what our childhood was like and how like society's expectations. Is it society's expectations or parent expectations or family, or is it all
it's
of it?
well, it's basically all first come from your parents, then it'll come
Hmm.
from schooling, and then it'll come from society in general. So like, what are your expectations? And this is in context of like, as the gender you were born into, like what's the expectations of that, how you're expected to behave by your parents, how what did they do to encourage certain behaviors, or and how does the school encourage certain behaviors and all
Sure.
of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've actually I was very fortunate. There wasn't much. How can I say, direction that was forced upon me when I was doing new things or asking questions or wanting to try a new sport or a new hobby or a new anything. It was just, yeah, okay, cool, go for it. And this coming from my parents and like my immediate family. Um, and even in school, now that I think about it, like from teachers, it was the same. It was the same. I never got told, maybe you should rather do this because it's more aligned to what we think you should be doing. It was never
Mhm.
like that. Like I played cricket from grade 1 till about
As a
grade
girl?
10 or 11.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Just being facetious. I just said as a girl. That's
Yeah, no, for sure. I hear you, and I hear you, and it was
yeah.
actually quite it was quite
No, it was
something. Like
progressive. Yeah.
yeah, I actually I was actually very very good at cricket. And the school didn't have a girls cricket team, so I used to play on the boys cricket team. And when I'd go
Oh,
to other schools like for matches and stuff, like it was actually now that I haven't actually reflected about this. So this is I'm talking and reflecting at the same time.
it's your
So
snail
you're
moment.
gonna have to just bear with me. Um, like first impressions with from the other team, they would just they'd see the girl coming to open the bowling, and you'd hear things like snickering and boys being boys, like because this is primary school now, right? Say primary school, you're a teenager, early high school, and they very quickly like go silent after like the first 3 or 4 overs that I've bowled, and like there's been no runs scored, and then they're like, whoa, okay, what is happening here? And that was actually quite it was quite funny to see, because I'd see it all the time, like how like over the first hour, say, of playing, there's a complete change in the dynamic. It's like they almost start seeing me as like an equal, and like someone to not just like, oh, it starts coming to bowl now, we can like score so many runs during this over. And it was the same with like batting and stuff. Like I think my best was I was second batsman, opening bowler, second batsman in the boys cricket team. And yeah, sometimes they would say, oh no, just because she's a girl, like they let her like open the batting and the bowling. But then, when we'd actually start playing, they would see it's not
You got
just
skills.
it was
Sats,
like
do you think you could get us like a photo of you doing cricket? I would love
yeah,
to
I've
see
got tons of
baby
sports photos.
Sats.
For sure,
Please.
for sure. I'll dig something up and
Man, you
and
must
let
have
you
been a
see that.
menace, hardcore.
But yeah, I actually yeah, I haven't thought about this in years, and it just like came into my head because you're asking about uh about this. And yeah, the people in my school, like my coaches, my teachers, they never thought it was anything different or anything. They were super encouraging, and it was fantastic. um and it was the same with like musical instruments and like drama and dancing and all kinds of things. It was always like encourage whatever you want to do. If you like it, cool, stick with it. If you don't like it, you tried it, whatever. You don't have to do it. So I was never forced by my parents or my family or my teachers or coaches to do anything or not to do anything, which was really, really I'm very grateful for. And I think at the time I probably took it for granted. Because if you have to ask like the majority of people, I think that their activities would have been very closely like guided based on like society and stereotypes and expectations. So yeah, very fortunate. I hope yeah, that answers your question somewhat.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's got a good kind of like it means that you came from a really good like background, and you had the supports that got you where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whitney, do
I
you
like
want
how
to?
your teachers just included you on the guys team and weren't just like, oh well, there's no girls team. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Good on your teachers. Okay, so my side, I guess, pretty similar. My parents were open-minded, and I was sort of allowed to like pick clothes. If I went shopping, I would like pick what to wear and pick. Very open in that sense. I guess when I was in school, because I was raised in like such a, you can speak your mind, you can challenge opinions, you can, like I would, be quite fierce, asking my mom all sorts of stuff, and felt very comfortable. And so obviously when I went to school, that kind of translated, and I would ask the teachers lots of stuff and debate the teachers in class. And sometimes they would take offense because it's seen as disruptive and almost like you're trying to act too clever in front, like you're trying to like show off. And that was kind of sad for me because I really wasn't trying to show off. I think sometimes I thirst for like deeper conversations and like more interest, like I want to like really scratch beyond the kind of normal stuff. And I think I also just enjoy that feeling, like a bit like archaeology, when you get to like, the teacher's actually also very interested in like for example, history. I mean, they can teach you the normal stuff, but then if you like ask them a little bit about, and then they light up a bit and tell you something that's a bit off script. It's nice seeing teachers kind of do that. Not all teachers would do that. Some would get very cross. And So I think some of the time it was a little bit challenging for me to be myself, and I had to kind of, this goes back to our previous conversation where you have to kind of like stay in your box and realize like when is the time for you to, you know, show your personality at its fullest, when's appropriate, when's not appropriate. So I've been kind of learning that all the way up until now, like really trying to get a handle on that. And I guess like in terms of growing up, I was, my mom, like I was never raised where like it was like you have to get good grades and you have to do this and this. I was obviously like, oh wow, you got good grades, that's amazing, you know, like they would compliment me and stuff on getting good grades. I was very conscientious, so I did get good grades, but I kind of never, this is a huge gap in my understanding, like massive. I never understood how bureaucratic the world is, where you're just a set of numbers on a piece of paper. Like, what did you get in your grades? So throughout my entire life, I've been able to get through by talking, you know, and by people getting to know me. And, you know, when like, I mean, I've always read books for like from a young age and been able to like talk to older people, and they're like, wow, you know, and that instills you with a fake sense of courage, basically. And then I thought I was a very special snowflake, and then I went to university and they were like, sweetheart, we literally do not care about you, you know, like unless you get these marks, you're not like, I was 2% shy for it's a long story. We're not gonna talk about all sorts of like complicated stuff right now, but I realized that obviously they're an institution. They can't give people leniencies or like, oh, you're a snowflake, oh, this happened to you in your matric year, oh, you want a plaster, here we go, we'll let you into this department, of course, you know, study physics, of course. It's not going to happen because there's too many people to process, you know. And I think I was just raised in such a way that like I'd never confronted that cold hard reality, which is, I'm basically saying that I'm incredibly privileged. And yeah, so that was something that was a big, super wake-up call. The other thing is I never thought I would ever become a software developer. I took IT in class and it was my best subject, hands down, and it never occurred to me to be a software developer because I don't think I'd ever seen any examples of other female software developers. That was one part of it. Like it literally took me seeing some other guy who after school, I saw the stuff that he was like coding. It was kind of like in Flash, or I don't know, it was some like not coding, but coding. And I was like, oh my God, I could do that. I can do that. And then I was like, holy moly, I should become a software developer. And yeah, anyway. So what else was I wanting to say? I guess just what was expected of me was to, you know, be myself, do what I wanted to do and all of that. But there was also sometimes like pressure to kind of like conform and not necessarily be as like boisterous and excitable and challengey-ish as I am. And I think there's many ways in which I didn't realize how the world works growing up. I mean, obviously you can get by with like, you know, talking to people and, you know, personality and stuff like that. But like, I also see it on the side of the institutions, for example, where they have to process so many people. Like you literally cannot, like you can't treat people like snowflakes. So I think that was just an interesting part of my upbringing, is that my very open-ended sort of upbringing ended up screwing me in university. Sorry.
I don't think you should see it in a negative way.
That is like,
you take it.
So okay, let me just tell you, I've been reading this book called You're Not Listening, and it's all about how to be a good listener and stuff like that. And there are so many times I just want to jump in because I've like got something to say, but I'm like, no, you haven't learned anything if you just keep jumping into the conversation. So
It's pretty
but-
fun though. I mean, not gonna lie, but I want to hear what Alice was going to say something. So
yeah, so that's why
What we said.
I'm just listening. I'm just listening.
Do you want to hear my side of the story?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you go.
Because I do have a reason for asking you guys these questions, and I do have a follow up that goes
And you're
with
gonna
this.
answer this as well, hey? You,
Gosh, she goes.
Our-
Like,
Yeah,
she's
I'm
like
not
like a
going to-
mastermind. I do have a follow up. Yes, I plotted.
Okay, so yeah, my childhood, I'd say I had a really fortunate childhood. My parents weren't very well off because they just immigrated to South Africa, so they started from basically what they had, the little amount of what they had, and they've kind of built themselves up. And yeah, and I think the way that they did it to also put me through school and university and everything, I think it's amazing what they did. So because my parents weren't really well off when I was a kid, I basically had a lot of secondhand clothing. I had whatever toys that my mom could bring home from work or someone else's kids or whatever it is. So it was never like the Barbie dolls or anything. It was just like, you do you. Here's a few building blocks. Here's a few pieces of like whatever it is. And the one thing that my dad definitely pushed onto me from a really young age, I think I had more pens and like notebooks than I did having like toys. So
Wow.
they were like, you are going to learn how to math and you're going to learn how to do all these things. I think my dad refused to buy any toys. He like literally bought the books that I remember having. He literally went and bought encyclopedias for me. So obviously like little children encyclopedias, not the adults, not the ones that just have no pictures or anything. So he scouted them out. He went and he's like, is this the book you want? And I'm like, yeah, that's the book. So and at the time, I think as a kid, the section that I'd always visit the most in this encyclopedia was like the space section, the planet section, just because I think it was like, who was it? Is it Neil Armstrong or Neil Armstrong like landed on the moon or something, or someone went into Mark Shuttleworth. I think he went into space at the time while I was a little kid, and I was like, I want to be an astronaut. And then like obviously you go to school and all the girls are like, I want to be a Barbie, and you're like, no bitch, I want to be an astronaut. So and I remember at some points I even try to like teach a friend how to add 1+1 at some points on the playground while we're going down a slide or something. And I
You're
was
just
like, 1+1, and then this poor kid is just like, I don't know. And yeah, but I'd say like in my childhood there were some expectations from the teachers, like you had to kind of like the girls that were dressed more pretty or would put dresses on were treated a lot or treated like they got more preferential treatment, whereas like I was more quiet, and because I was more quiet as a kid, like yeah, I got the preferential treatment once in a while, but it was more like, yeah, because you're a well-behaved kid and you don't say anything. And then lo and behold, when I think 6th grade or 7th grade came along, it was like, yeah, I'm not shutting up anymore. I'm just going to say whatever I want. And I think at that point, the teachers were okay. But I found that in like grade, I think it was 7, So the most popular girls would play in the A team for netball and stuff like that, and then all the other girls, including myself, would have to play in the B team. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Just because I don't fit in your stupid stereotype of being. So I remember in grade 7, these girls were these popular girls. They would watch Bring It On. They would go on about like this movie, Bring It On. They would act like cheerleaders and all of that. And I was like, what the heck? What is this? And then so yeah, that was basically pre high school. No, that was primary schoolish. High school, I went to an all girls school, so there's like obviously there's the dress code that kind of enforces an expectation. We were not allowed wearing any pants. You had to wear a dress, a tunic, throughout the entire year, unless the temperature dropped like below 15 degrees, then you were allowed to wear a tracksuit. And if it was not below 15 degrees in winter and you wore a tracksuit, you got demerits. And I was like, what the heck? I just want to wear some pants. So yeah, so that was being an all girls school. In terms of like university, being in engineering, I think the expectation of being a girl kind of fell away because there were so few of you. There were just so few girls that you had to blend in with the guys. And I think like when I was in going from an all girls school into university into engineering, I actually so much better in there. But obviously the first few friends that I made also came from all girls schools, and like they were really shy speaking to the guys, and I was like, what the heck, just ask away, just kind of be like, hey, what's up, like this is like, how do you do this? But I did realize that towards like the kind of like third year, second year, girls would start wearing like more low cut tops, would start flirting with guys. It's a little bit ridiculous. And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go and kind of yeet off on onto the side there and just do my own shit. Like, do not expect me to be wearing low cut tops or whatever it is, kind of trying to get help left, right, and center here. So yeah, so I think university, I was pretty good with university. High school was, I think it felt normal. It did feel normal. We did have, like, I remember as a kid, what like really stroked my ego the most was like, I remember this so clearly. So and Brandon hates it every time I tell this story, but I was like, what, 12 or something, and I came home early with like one of my parents' friends, and they had a son that was like a year older than me, and he was like so chuffed with himself, and he was like, oh yeah, I can swim faster than you, I can blah blah blah. And then I was like, cool, let's race in the pool. And then so he's like, okay, I'm definitely gonna beat you, all this arrogance and everything. And then I was like, okay, cool. And then I was like, ready, get set, go. And obviously I came out first. And then so then he, like, after that, just seeing how bruised his ego was, like, I was like, do you want to race again, just to check if it was you that was faulty or me that just was really lucky? And he was like, no, like his ego was so bruised. The next week that I asked, do you want to swim, he was like, no, I refuse. And I was like, all on you. But it was really funny in the sense that it was like being underestimated just because of your gender and also because of age and everything. And for me, like, being able to do something like better than someone, it's a competitive streak in me, but just being able to do something, or being able to do something that someone else struggles with or can't do it or anything, kind of gives me that little tinge of like, yes, I can do this.
So
Uh,
I'm keen to just chat about like one thing from that, if that's cool.
Yeah.
How are you feeling though in terms of, do you want to finish your story?
No, you can go ahead. I was already done.
I guess like, so you talk about this and I totally understand what you're saying. I didn't go to LANs, which is when,
Yeah.
for our age people, this is when everybody physically brought their computer to the same place, and then you'd plug in your computers, and I was always like, I played a lot of games, but I was terrified of going to LANs because of people being like, you're a girl. And then anyway, I went to a LAN, and I'm not going to go down that story. It's a crass joke, and it's not worth the time. But anyway, the point is, I have almost like the opposite problem in a strange kind of way sometimes, where the skills that I have, I feel like they're like soft, a lot, like often very soft skills. And then when I'm in a team, it's like, how do you quantify being the glue person, or being the person that, like, there's not a framework for whether you're mentoring people, you're the person that mentors the most people in the team, you're the person in the team that provides the most psychological safety, you know what I mean? Like, there's things that annoyingly sometimes often inherently female, and there's a lot of statistics around the fact that women do a lot of work that is related, like not promotable work. They do events, they'll organize like fun social things. I used to do that as well for like, and like unwittingly, going into it and being like la 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 la, and now I kind of know more about the facts that women just typically pick up all this extra stuff, that like they can be working 1.5 times, and men just work 1 times, and they work on more critical stuff that's more critical to the business, and that ends up like screwing women over. But anyways, the point is, like, sometimes I would love to be the guy at like Counter-Strike or whatever. It didn't always happen. I did sometimes wreck at Call of Duty, which was amazing. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, that same feeling, like I've never necessarily been like the like way better at coding in all circumstances, because I guess it gets harder and harder to measure. But I've definitely noticed that I'm like, there's not as many things that like you like, they're not as measurable, and that's frustrating. It's like the hard sciences versus the soft sciences, and I'm like, but social sciences are sometimes like really hard because they're basically complex systems,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But my question, okay, we're going a little bit off topic, but you bring up a very good like thing of measuring things, and like and the thing is, like, you're trying to measure a social skill, like a soft skill, in comparison, I think, with like a technical skill, which I think all engineers have a technical skill, and the one thing that we suck at is soft skills. And like, the thing is that it takes time to actually appreciate that soft skill. It actually takes a lot of time to actually appreciate it. And the reason why it takes time to appreciate it is because you need to actually reflect on it. You need to kind of, and the thing is that it's, you think it's like not measurable, but essentially how other people are performing is how you should kind of be measuring yourself, like, because you're essentially delegating all of this work to other people. If these people are sitting idle and not really kind
but
of
you're not
moving,
necessarily delegating to some extent, but you are potentially moving the needle in terms of like teaching people in a team if you're at the same level as them. But one of the examples I'd like to just throw in here to add to it, I forgot to mention it earlier, is like, I have run a company, and basically my role is basically to speak to people, and like, you're like a technical strategist. They tell you about their business, and they tell you about the app that they want to create, and then you're like, okay, that like 80% of that is good, 20% is that really bad. Like, why don't you rather do this? And this is how you can monetize your business. This is how you can, like, all these cool apps that you can use. And so it's kind of difficult to define what I do, but it's like a lot of software developers would like, they hate talking to clients. They don't want to do any kind of business development. They don't want to do product, like even product management is different, because like product management's lovely because you can like measure things, and you can like, there's like a little bit more analytical kind of thinking towards all this.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, I'm like this weird hybrid person, and now, you know, if I like want to, it's sometimes frustrating. It's just a little whinge. I'm just
No, I think what you're missing is like, so for me, as a very like more leaning towards technical side kind of person, don't have, like, I would say my social skills are really, really bad. Like, in terms of communicating things to people, it wouldn't be the greatest. But it's also because I don't want to actually chat to the client, because like there needs to be a clear communication. To me, how I picture things is I will view things in this technical term of how things need to be done, but a client might have a different vision of how things need to be done. And to me, it's like, whoa, can you just focus on what you want now rather than what you want like 5 years later? And having to tell that to a client, for me to say no to a client and be like, whoa, but like put the brakes on, like we need to draw up this timeline. And to them, they're like, to a client, they kind of want to be like, I want to get this, I want to be the first to the market, I want to be blah blah blah. And you're like, first to the market to what? If you don't have a good like foundation of your software, you're gonna be first to the market to crumble. Not
yeah.
just first to the market, but you're gonna crumble at the first to the market, and then someone's gonna take your idea, build a better one, and then just excel from there. So it's like, how do you communicate that? So for me, if I have to tell a client exactly that, they're not gonna like it. I'm gonna be so brutally honest that they're gonna be like, well, what am I supposed to do? But at the same time, you're like, this is your business, you need to figure this out.
Ah, yes. Oh God. I
I
mean, clients figuring out their own business. Alice, Alice, so naive, so
Yeah.
young, so naive. Anyway, Sats, what do you think about all this? Do you relate at all?
So
I don't know if you.
So I think the cool thing with you too is that you have a similar career path, right? So there are some similarities there. But what I can say from my side is that um, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and Alice knows hers, okay, and you know yours. And it sounds like the there's like a middle person that needs to be there between Alice and the customer for
Yeah.
there to be a happy relationship. And in my mind, from what you've told me, you ideally can be that middle person because you can translate what the customer wants into what we need to do to get to what they want. And I love that you laughed when you said when Alice says that it's the customer's business to figure what the steps are. But I mean, a lot of the time they don't know, and they're coming to you because they need help.
Yeah, I
And
mean, they can need. Yeah, but like there's like, I've only learned this really recently, and it's the hard way, Sets. I cannot even tell you how much it is the hard way that I've learned this. But basically, people assume when they're getting tech that they're just getting tech. You're building the app. What they don't realize is that an app is literally just a digitization of all of the standard operating procedures in their business. And then they just ask you to build it because you're a technical professional, but they haven't thought through the business requirements, right? First of all. Second of all, they actually place the risk on you as an individual, as a technical professional. Like you're saying, it's like it's our job to guide them through that process. The problem is that let's say Alice says to some, like, the interesting part about what Alice was saying is like, client comes to you, they're like super excited, they want to build this thing, right? And Alice is, as a technical professional, her job is like an engineer to make sure the bridge doesn't fall down, right? Because we are paid to, like, if the bridge collapses, we're in charge of, that's a fuck, that's a screw up, right? So, but at the same time, like, often clients will tell you, you have to build the most sturdy bridge that ever was. And engineers love this. They're like, oh yes, I can build a sturdy bridge. Oh, I know how to make the best bridges. Oh yes. And then they'll make this amazing app and the customer doesn't have any customers and they're very new to their business journey and they don't know how to make like a very like a rope bridge, that you could maybe get some like people who are very adventurous, be like, hey, there's a rope bridge over these trees and totally not like some piranhas down there or something. Anyway, I'm just saying that sometimes you have to teach people things like, have you validated your market? Do you have product? Like, it becomes so out of scope for you as a technical professional. So you are also like, you're balancing, like, how do I make this customer feel hopeful and excited about their business? So that's a sales role. And then also you have to play the engineer, which is like, if you want it the way you want it, you're basically telling me, build it so that 10,000 people could walk in the door tomorrow. And then when you pay me to do that, you're going to be upset because there's like, upset internally. You may not be upset at the engineer, but you're like, oh, I spent all this money and now there's only like 4 people that have walked across the bridge. And it's like, well, honey, did you want to pay for an entire team of people to run your business? No, you paid for some engineers and that's what you got. Like, engineers will build what you want to spec.
Yeah, look,
Yeah,
I
rant
hear you.
over.
I absolutely understand what you're saying, and I definitely think there are two roles there, and I think maybe it's because of the different type of company that you both work in, like you run your own company, with me. I'm looking at you, but I can realize you don't know I'm looking at you. It's hilarious. Sorry. I have to say the names. Yes, you have to say the name. Otherwise, they don't know. Okay. Oh my God. Excuse me. And so you need to play that additional role. Whereas if someone comes to like Alice, she's not the liaison between the customer and the engineer. There is another person that goes down that road that will then like take what the customer wants, make sense of it, and make sure that there's a understanding between the two, and that everyone knows what they actually need, and then they'll go to Alice and be like, okay, this is what the plan is, whereas with you, Whitney, they like you are the main person there, so maybe I'm not saying that it's the engineer's job to figure out or to hold the person's hand. I'm just saying in your case, maybe it might feel that way because there isn't a
I think sometimes, I guess what I was lamenting is like, sometimes it feels like a lot of extra craft on the whole, like, it's basically like saying, okay, let's say you want to get some clothing made up with a tailor. You can't speak directly to the tailor because they're too technical for you to speak to as a person who wants clothes. Suddenly they're like, oh, you have to speak to the fashion designer. I literally won't speak to you because you're like the client and you don't have your ideas in line, which is very undermining for the client as well. So it's like just funny. I guess I'm just more like, it's interesting, but also engineers are often put into the position, software engineers, where they have to think about the business more often, like way more than the people that actually need the software, weirdly. Anyway, this is getting into a very
look, I understand what you're saying. I think we agree with each other. It's just that what we're saying is that sometimes engineers have to go beyond, or have to know more, have those softer skills in order to be as effective, I guess. If you don't have that
if you don't have the buffer.
That's where the soft skills come in, which is why this whole conversation came up. You were talking about how do you actually measure part of it, you know. And then what I was gonna say is, you know, like it's customer satisfaction, it's how your team feels working with you, it's it's those kinds of things. So they aren't measurables, but you can, or rather they aren't like quantitative
Mm.
measurables, but it might be more qualitative if you had to do an interview with somebody or get, or like have a face to
I,
face, you know.
but again, this is the thing, is like everything about me needs to be evaluated face to face. Like that's so frustrating.
But
It's
why
like,
is it
you
frustrating?
know,
Yeah, yeah. I think we're taking this down a rabbit hole.
we are totally. We
We're
are
taking
totally.
this down a rabbit hole, and I would love to watch you guys just discuss this. But it does bring me to what the second point that I really wanted to make for this podcast, and the reason why I actually asked, like, what was the expectations from you as you grew up, and what were the things that kind of molded you to the way that you are today. And the reason for asking those questions is that it leads to, like, what are the characteristics that you have that make you good at what you do today? Which essentially, Whitney, you kind of answered that saying that you have to
Oh.
you have, like, you enjoy this face-to-face interaction because as a kid you've just grown up just wanting to dig more into getting to know things. And essentially what you're doing with your clients is that you're trying to dig more to getting to find out what their business is. But you have to somewhat draw the line. Okay, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna comment on that. But anyway,
That was like a
it's like
cliffhanger. What do you mean? You have to draw the line where? Where do you draw the line, Alice Thompson?
on the sand, not where the snail is.
Oh my god, it's gone full circle. Like a Fibonacci snail shell. Oh god.
Okay, but yeah,
Oh my
so
god.
the thing is, like, what are the characteristics that make you good at what you do? And especially because you want to measure what you do, what your skills are, and what actually, like, you want to know that you bring value. So what are your inner childhood, the characteristics that you brought up from childhood that got you, that makes you good at what you currently do right now? Or maybe it doesn't, like, who knows? So like, to give you an example, for me, as a kid, like, very curious, a little bit egotistical, ego driven, and just wanting to always find a challenge and kind of solve a problem, kind of thing. So for me, like, I could have gone into accounting, but I, like, even though my mom taught me maths at a really early age and I was pretty good at it, would I actually be a good fit in accounting? Kind of just balancing the sheets, looking at numbers every day. Like, I'd be bored out of my mind. But like, trying to solve a coding problem, or trying to fit, like, puzzle pieces together, to me that's more interesting than staring at a bunch of numbers. No offense to any accountants out there. um,
Yeah, sure.
so so yeah, so like, to me, I wouldn't want to describe, which brings us back to the question, which, Sats, you mentioned it, like, you've been basically talking to a lot of people and asking, who are they? Like, who are you? Describe yourself without your title. And when you describe yourself without a title, it's the characteristics that you develop as a kid. And does that characteristic kind of fit into what you're currently doing? So yeah. Sats, do you want to
Nice.
take the stage?
um Oh, you brought up the thing about who am I, and I wanted to talk to you about that, but obviously not now, because the question of who are
Who
you or
are
who
you,
am I,
Sats?
who am
Yeah,
I,
who,
is
like,
a
what?
very very
Yeah,
a deep question. And it
yeah.
and what you were asking is like, what are you like, you know, when you don't
So,
when you
like,
don't
what
have
are
your
the
title, or when you're not like, apart from other people, what are you like, No,
Yeah,
not as
yeah.
opposed to
So
who are you.
what are the characteristics, what are the things that built you from your childhood
Yes,
that got you to the point that you are right now, that got you to be what you're good at right now or led you into that thing? Because that way, taking it from there, you can describe yourself without your title.
sure.
So you're now good. You've developed a character that will fit into it, but is not limited to your career title.
Sure. Okay. So I think okay, I'm a bit of a weird one because I mean, as we know, I changed my career, right? But let's focus on engineering. I love engineering. I'm passionate about engineering, and that was like the first thing that I loved to do. Like when I was a kid, like I used to open things and break everything and try to put it back together, and sometimes it works and sometimes it wouldn't. And my parents were just like, okay, I mean, naughty, but it's okay, whatever it is. So that like curiosity and that like interest to figure out how something works and that kind of thing. And of course, like good at the maths and physics, and you have to be that analytical problem solving brain. Um, got me into engineering, and I loved it. Like I excelled at university and at like in my career, like during work and stuff. And I think I don't know if there was anything specific in my childhood that made me want to change my career. It was everything that happened later on, um, that I wanted to change, or that I kind of felt like something was missing. Because like up until that time, I had everything, and there was nothing really. I didn't feel like anything was really missing until I got to a certain point, and then I, like through traveling and stuff like that, figured out what it is that I needed to do. And I think what I can say is that confidence that I had to change my career, uh, I got from that support that I had while I was growing up. I knew that my family would support me if I had to change my career. So I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm in this like huge dilemma, like I'm not fulfilled. I have this new purpose that I want to do, but what am I going to do? Because I can't just like leave engineering, leave my job and start studying something new. Like I felt comfortable. I felt like so sure that, I put this to my parents, like, guys, this is what's going on. This is how I feel. This is what I feel like I need to do. I had no doubt that they would be fully supportive, because that is all I've ever known them to do. So I think that part can be related to the change in my career. Yeah.
Okay. Whitney, same question to you. Like, what from your childhood? Like, it's more reflecting on what you enjoy, what actually brings you
Yeah.
joy in what you do right now. Because as a kid, you just naturally excelled at it.
I think things that I enjoyed, I really loved like spy stuff. And like I used to have this, we used to have a garden, and I loved climbing trees, but I would make every tree was like a different base, and you have to like enter the tree using a different set of commands, and the commands are like touching the tree, and there were like different buttons that were hidden, and I would remember all the different, and I would like take like a pod from one end of the garden, which is like a key to unlock certain trees, and it was very eccentric, I guess, but also detailed. I think I liked like strategy and like I did a skills assessment thing when I got older, and I like they say that one of the top skills, which is a strange skill, it's like hard to talk about, but like it's input. It's somebody that basically like I'm like a magpie for information. Like I love taking information from all these different places, and then it makes me feel very powerful. So I'm like, yeah, I've got this whole treasure chest of information and knowledge, and I feel like that's kind of like wanting to be like Q from James Bond, or somebody who's like super equipped to go into any situation. I was really into that kind of stuff as a kid, and I think it's definitely translated as an adult. Because I love like sitting on the internet and reading, and I enjoy that the puzzle piece fitting of taking things from all these different sources. I used to love like reading as a kid. I spent a lot of time in the library, and yeah, so that's one of the things. I think I was also just kind of confident and cocky, and like I guess a bit just yeah. And I think that's made me. I think I've always been a little bit not so good with authority, which has helped with starting my own company and generally being like a leader, because I'm like, well, if not me, then who? That dude? No, I can do this. Like, so I think that yeah, it's weird because I'm around software engineers who are way better than me at coding all the time, and yet I'm just more confident. I'm like, yeah, of course I can lead a team. Let's do this. Let's go. And they're like, but I don't know where it comes from. So, I don't know. I think that's something from childhood. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's particularly pertinent. I don't know. I guess I also just like the idea of like psychological safety and making sure that people feel listened to and held and enjoyed, like held as a like bit of a, I guess I just mean in teams and with people that you work in with, I feel, or with friends and stuff, I feel like it's quite important for people to like get to express themselves a lot, because I don't know, I really enjoy that. And so I think I try to, I'm a bit like a bard in D&D or something. A bard is somebody who like usually plays a little magical instrument, and they get people, they have like high charisma, and they just make the party of adventurers like +2 to the entire party of adventurers. So I'm kind of just like that. I get like excited, and then I want to make everybody better, and then I do my bard thing. But the bard is like not, necessarily like the best fighter, but somehow they're very helpful for making the plan go forward. And I think just, yeah, I have an obscene ability to take risks, and I have no idea where that comes from. No idea. Yeah,
Interesting.
it scares me sometimes, but yes, that's my answer. What about you, Alice?
I mean, it works. It's working for you, so it sounds like it's a good thing. Yeah, I think, I don't know if you guys want to wrap this up. We've got like
I
3
want to hear
minutes.
your answers a little bit.
My answers for, I thought I gave you guys an example.
Yeah, Alice did. She used an example to try
Sounds
to
like
start.
just one example,
of
anything else?
me. Nope, I don't have anything else. I'm just egotistical.
I want to know. I'm curious. Okay, I have a question from earlier, and I also like have to hold my tongue. It's hard. It's hard for us, Alice. I was wondering what went on where you were a quiet kid, and then suddenly you were like, "I'm not going to shut up anymore." Was there any kind of like moment where that consciously changed for you, or did it just kind of happen?
I think for me it just kind of happened. I guess at some point, so I know, like, I kind of am aware why I was a lot more quieter as a kid, like from the ages from whatever, like 3 or so ish, all the way upwards till like I think 11, 12, where I start speaking up a little bit more. And the reason being is because I used to, so because my parents are, so I'm bilingual, so my parents didn't know a lot of English. And at the time, like, you got made fun of a lot for like like stuffing up words or English words, or not being able to pronounce things properly, or you get ignored. Like, I remember having pencils stolen out of my bag, and then I told the teacher, and I was like, I think I got my pencil stolen out my bag. And then she just kind of just been like, whatever, kind of ignored me. And I was like, did I not voice myself correctly or anything?
Wow.
And I think
Thanks.
only about like 12ish or so, I got a little bit more confidence with kind of like my vocabulary, with whatever, and to actually just voice an opinion and kind of be more, this is what I want. I don't want to be like pushed around anymore or whatever it is. And I was just like, I'm speaking up, and it just happened. And yeah, so I just remember being, as a kid, I was more observant observant of like the world, and just kind of, it's almost like a survival mechanism, I would say, where you're trying to like observe everything around you and how people behave and what's normal and what's not normal. And then until like I completely fully understood that, I was like, okay, cool, it's time to play the game now. So yeah, so in terms of the quietness, it was just by
That's
nature, just like this
It's nice here. Like, I guess this is also why I like the podcast. Is like, it's nice hearing stories like that, because it wouldn't, if you had to be like, can you guess? That would never, I don't think I would have guessed that ever. Do you know what I mean? Like, which is kind of silly almost, but like, it's just, I don't hear, as a first language English speaker, it's like, I don't immediately default to thinking, oh, other people have second languages as their first language. Sorry, I'm sounding so Anglo-centric right now.
It's okay. This is why we have a podcast, so that we could share these views. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's interesting for other people to kind of be like, oh my gosh. But
snailed termination. Oh god.
Do you have any questions, Sats?
No, I think without getting back into a whole other thing, I think it was a good chat.
Cool.
I think so. Like, maybe for another session, you mentioned it was kind of interesting that your last point was like, I kind of got to this point where I was like, okay, time to play the game. It's interesting. Like, what is the game, Alice? And how do you play it?
The game of life.
Yes, well,
the game of life. Yeah, I don't know.
So I just feel like that could be like what each of us feels like the game is. I feel like that was part of the question today, almost like what, how are you told to be in the world, and how did that fit with your natural curiosities and stuff like that? And I mean, you mentioned like, the cleavage thing. I was 18 or so. Like, I was never raised super girly. Okay, so the last thing I'll say on this. I went on some school trip away. Anyway, I saw like girls, they like actually like moved their boobs in their bra. Like, they like made their boobs go. I just thought you put bra on. I've never ever, like, I've never seen that in my entire life. I was like, couldn't. So shocked. And there's so many things like that where I just had like these like first girl moments, like maybe like way too late in life, where anyway, it's just, it amuses me. I find it very entertaining, but yeah. Okay, cool, good talk. And now Alice is in charge of uploading things. So
I'm in charge of uploading things. I have to stay on. Okay, cool. Let's end the podcast here. Until next time. Peace.